Hello guys, very welcome back. In this video we'll be starting our discussion of remote sensing. The first topic is aerial photographs and their interpretations, merits and limitations. Now first we need to understand what does an aerial photograph mean. Photographs taken from the air above the platforms like planes, drones, balloons, camera attached to the birds, etc. What are some of the types of aerial photograph? It can be classified based on the angle and based on the height. Based on the angle, it can either be a vertical air photograph, it can be a low oblique air photograph with a 30-degree angle from vertical where the horizon is not visible, or it can be a high oblique aerial photograph with 60-degree angle where horizon is visible. Now, based on the height, the aerial photograph can be a low altitude photograph, it can be a medium altitude photograph, or it can be a high altitude photograph. Okay? Next we move to what is photogrammetry. Now, photogrammetry is the science of determining the object's characteristics from an images record on photographic emulsions without coming in physical contact with the object. Okay, so you measure objects dimension from the photograph. You don't actually measure using tape or using some other instruments on the physical object. Now we'll move to what are some of the elements of aerial photo interpretation. So there are a total of 8 elements via which you can use them to interpret the aerial photograph. These are pattern, association, shape, size. Okay, so pass. T for tone and test for texture, shadow and time. We'll discuss one by one all of them. First of all, what is a pattern? Spatial arrangement of objects in the landscape. A plantation forest, or for that matter streets, can be easily seen or recognized from the spatial arrangement of object because these are regularly spaced. Plantation forests have a pattern. They are spaced regularly. The trees are spaced regularly. The natural forests don't have any pattern. They are irregular. Association. Accounting one object in a relation with the proximate. All right. Any object which is which lies very in proximity with that recognizable object. For example, if you see here there is industries and these are chimneys, you can see a road going on leading to the railway track. Okay, and here is the plantation forest. Okay, so industries were the for that matter, these railway tracks was an association which you related with the industries. Similarly, if you find a lake, you can discern that definitely these small objects could be boats. Okay, industry associated with the railway track is the example here. Shape. General form, structure or outline of an individual object. Okay, for example, if you find a meandering shape, definitely it would be a river, and if you find this almost rectangular shape, it shows you playground. Next is size. Size is based upon the scale. Still, assessment, it could either be a relative or absolute. Okay, for example, the large buildings such as here and here, this shows the commercial factory, and the small buildings shows the residential buildings. Okay, so you need to see either way, in the absolute sense as well as in the relative sense. Next we move to the tone. Tone refers to the relative brightness or color of an object in an image. This is also used in finding the shape the pattern and the association using different tones. We'll talk about this in our later videos. Texture is the arrangement and frequency of tonal variation in particular area. A smooth texture will represent a grassland, will represent lake, a field, asphalt. But if the texture is rough, okay, for example the forest canopy, it has a really rough texture. Next is shadow. Shadow, for example, here is a tree and it has a shadow. Definitely you can get what's the relative height, what is the slope, what is the shape and the orientation, right? So we can get an idea of the profile. But at sometimes shadow can also be problematic. It can pose some limitations. Time is another element and very important element. Looking at a series of photos of urban area over time to determine the growth of urban area, the fall in the forest area and the shrinking lakes. Okay, so these are the 8 elements. You can remember it by the acronym pass the test: pattern, association, shape, size, tone, texture, shadow, time. Okay, so that. Now the difference between aerial photographs and topographic photographs, I'll state this. So one of the advantage with the aerial photographs is that it can be obtained easily, okay, and with very less time. Topographic maps, on the other hand, are the topographic maps. It's very time taking and there are very hard procedures. You need to set up the machines, you need to take the readings, you need to write, you need to jot down every reading. There has to be periodic readings, you need to change the dumpy level, so on and so forth. Secondly, aerial photographs can be prepared for inaccessible areas, for example the war zones, the difficult terrain, if it's like a disaster like flood or volcano, so on and so forth. But it's very tough to prepare the topo map in these areas. Thirdly, the pictorial view can be dynamic in nature, right? You can take the temporal aspects also. You can monitor the development. You can say what's the day-to-day comparison, okay? And moreover, there is no, right? The topo maps are static; they are not dynamic. For example, you can, if you have seen the Aral Sea map of the Kazakhstan, Aral Sea is slowly and gradually over the years have diminished in size. Similarly, the glaciers retrieval, the retreat of glaciers, it's mapped through the aerial photographs. Okay. Now the second aspect is that many a times due to tone, right? You can change the tone, and what is not visible to the human eye can be viewed by the aerial photographs. Health of the crops can be viewed if there is a chemical spill, but the chemical is transparent, but changing the tone to infrared or something like that, you can view the chemicals, the extent of chemicals, okay? And there are like n number of cases, but there is no such provision with the topographic maps. Fifthly, the fifth advantage of aerial photographs is that even the aerial photographs can be made or can be taken either if it's a day, it's great. If it's not a day, if it's a night, even it's not a problem. But for preparing the topographic map, you need to carry the machines to that particular location, and it would be difficult to prepare the same, right? Now let's see some of the disadvantages, some of the limitations of using aerial photographs. The scales are approximate, the locations are approximate in aerial photographs, okay?
And in other the topo maps, it's exact and accurate because everything is made according to scales. Excuse me. Many terrain features are overlapped, they are not represented, but every is represented using symbols, etc. It's hard to interpret. You need experts in order to interpret the aerial photographs, but as far as the topographic maps are concerned, it's easy to interpret. In fact, it's made for a common person. Even he can read the topo maps. Many times the objects may be hidden under shadow in aerial photographs. Okay, and hence you can make judgment. And there is no such issue with topo maps. The process of aerial photography using drones, using helicopters, using high-tech gadgets, it's very expensive. On the other hand, the topo maps is less expensive. All right, so that was all. Thank you.